Greetings and welcome. I'm Lisa May.
I'm Dan Murphy, and this is
Fruity Toons News. The DNA of white people is an abomination. That's the headline of a student-written article that made it into the campus newspaper at Texas State University.
The university is facing backlash from across the country and was forced to respond with this editor's note. It apologizes for the incident and aims to bring the campus community together to create a productive dialogue. More importantly, it is stated that it was for students to express and debate ideas, and the original intent of the column was to comment on the idea of race and racial identity.
I'm pretty sure these types of articles aren't going to bring anyone together. One might even say that the opposite would happen, and one might even assume that the reason it was published in the first place was to expand the racial divide.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to think that, considering the editorial goes on to refer to police officers as fascist foot soldiers, generalizes the vast majority of Caucasians as not decent, and claims that the death of whites will be liberation for all. So, yeah.
The article states, "I hate you because you shouldn't exist." You, meaning white Americans.
That's right, and we here at FTN with due diligence reached out to the Texas State University for comments on this piece of shit. I spoke with editor-in-chief Denise Cervantes.
The students that write these articles in the opinion section, do they have any types of guidelines that they must adhere to?
So the opinions page for the University Star is an open forum for our students. And as far as guidelines that students would follow, it would really just be the journalism ethics. But that's as far as it would be for guidelines.
I wonder if there's any known ethics in journalism that this article actually adheres to. Accuracy? Nope. Independence? Well, you can't be entirely certain that this was written on behalf of the radical left, so we'll say sure. Impartiality? No. Humanity? No. Accountability? No.
Well, there goes that explanation. I wonder where these students are getting their standard of journalism from.
And cats, they're not usually known for their love of swimming, but one feline in Northern Virginia is hitting the water instead of the gym in an effort to lose weight. Holly is a 13-year-old cat who dislikes the outdoors and other physical activities.
But surely there must be someone who looks at these opinion pieces before they go to print, Dan. I mean, these articles are a direct representation of the university.
How is the university planning on handling it, if at all? Are you guys just saying that it's going to be, this is a student op piece, not affiliated with the university whatsoever, and then claim that section as an open discussion forum?
Yeah, so the vetting process for the way our columns and the way it gets printed is being examined at right now by our current editorial board to figure out and to determine what should and what shouldn't be published. And it is a learning environment, and we're learning from our mistakes, and we've apologized, and we hope that hopefully this can bring productive conversation to our community and that we recognize the mistake that we made.
Oh, well, there you go. Sounds like they're looking to the future. They're going to have an editorial board review the process, and they apologized, much like the sexual predators in Hollywood, Congress, and the lamestream media.
As long as you learn from your mistakes, that's what matters.
Yeah, I just wonder who the editorial board consists of, you know?
Hopefully someone with professional objectivity with the desire to not promulgate hate, but that's what I wondered too, Lisa, so I asked.
So it's a student-ran publication, so the editorial board is made up of current students.
Wait, what? The people who were put in charge of not letting this happen again are the same people who did it in the first place? I think their moral judgment is a bit off. They were literally the last line of defense against this shit editorial that lacked any kind of insight whatsoever, and you want to trust them to correct these mistakes in the future? Well, it's good to see that the journalists of our future are setting their sights high, to write for BuzzFeed.
Well, hold on. Denise was kind enough to speak to us and also send us an official statement from the university, which we'll be linking in the description below. And for that, we thank her.
There's a lot of discussion on both sides of the aisle over the new tax reform legislation that recently passed in the Senate.
A debate CNN hosted this week featured Republican Senators Ted Cruz and Tim Scott, who rallied against Democratic Senator Maria Cantwell from Washington and everyone's favorite pudding-loving socialist, Bernie Sanders. Now, there's a lot of great information available to read on this tax cut, but we wanted to discuss something else.
Watching Bernie drool at the very thought of socialism reminded us of something very concerning. This man ran for president on a platform that promised an unemployed, underachieving generation a socialist wet dream, and they fell for it.
This is a segment we'd like to call Making a Socialist. We want to ask a very important and simple question. How exactly does a person become so fucking dumb that they believe socialism is a good thing?
Yep. Many have successfully debunked the idea that socialism can even work. It's very clear that in a free society where people value liberty and opportunity, it can never work.
Which is the opposite of, the values that these people that support socialism actually hold. So first, let's define our terms with some universal traits that these supporters of socialism share. So let's take a look at what socialists believe. 1. The current political socio-economic system intentionally seeks to keep poor people at a disadvantage.
And 2. People that are wealthy should help combat that disadvantage by giving their money to the government to redistribute to the poor, thus restoring balance to the universe, right?
Sure, if you're a lazy piece of shit, that sounds great. Now let's take a look at what socialists want. They don't want to be accountable for their actions, or more specifically, the financial consequences of their actions.
They rationalize their lack of responsibility, self-efficacy, and low self-esteem by demonizing those who have put effort to improve their lot in life.
And most importantly, they refuse to acknowledge any of the shortcomings of socialism that can be analyzed both in theory and application when looking around the world at other countries that have adopted a social... Fuck you.
Way to try it.
I tried to save it.
Yeah,
I really
you
did. And most importantly, they refuse to acknowledge any of the shortcomings of socialism that can be analyzed both in theory and application when looking to other countries around the world. Socialism has offered nothing to the world in terms of innovation or even prosperity, which is what they preach about.
It has, however, caused numerous South American economies to collapse. Canada's healthcare system is such shit that in Quebec in 2005 it was found to be a human rights violation. And as far as those European countries Bernie bandwagon supporters like to tote out as examples of flourishing socialism like Denmark, Sweden, Norway, and the Netherlands, these are places that pale in comparison to the U.S. when it comes to cultural diversity. We've been able to have a melding pot of ideas in this country because we celebrate diversity. Socialism seeks to destroy diversity simply by existing. Things like free speech, a free market economy, and freedom of choice don't exist in these countries to the degree that we're proud to have here in the United States of America.
Why? Because socialism, by its very nature, is a system that screws people over who are willing to work harder to earn more. And when people start getting upset, the all-powerful regulatory hand of the government finds its way over the mouth of dissenters. This is why socialism inevitably leads to communism, and this is why the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence are crucial safeguards for things like checks and balances for those in power, that power being accountable to its people, and its people having the means to do something about said power when it decides to make you bend to its will at gunpoint.
There you go.
Ready? God damn!
Why is that important? Because capitalism holds individuals accountable for their actions, whereas socialism defers responsibility from the individual to the government. In order to believe in socialism, your outlook on life has to be pretty incoherent with how reality actually is.
Look, I'm willing to discuss socialism as a reality, so tell you what, 100 years from now, when artificial intelligence does all the shitty jobs and doesn't try to kill all of humanity because of it, and infinite renewable energy has been created, which is almost guaranteed to happen in a non-socialist country, because socialist countries don't exactly have incentives for its citizens to, push humanity forward. Why? Because they're all good. Hey, I'm a janitor. That makes as much as a doctor, which is great until I need a hip replacement and the doctor accidentally transplants my balls to my forehead. But no worries, I didn't have to pay a dime. Yeah! And when, humanity doesn't have a millennia-long track record of becoming corrupt when given power, then okay.
So long as I am your king, treason shall never go unpunished. Sir Ilin, bring me his head.
We'll have a conversation. I'll consider socialism at that point. Maybe.
Until then, go out there, work hard, make something of yourself, and maybe, just maybe, you'll be lucky enough to do something great that earns you a substantial profit and gets you into the top 1%. So that way, a bunch of spoiled shitheads can demand you give part of it to them so they can sit in their parents' basement for the rest of their lives making protest signs. But guess what? You won't have to, because you'll be in the only country in the world where you'll be able to tell them no. Welcome to capitalism.
And God bless America. I'm Dan Murphy.
I'm Lisa May, and this is
Fruity Toons News.